Off we go into the wild blue yonder, flying high into the sun. Here they come, the men will lead out thunder, and boys give them the gun. There we die, shouting a flame from under, off with one hell of a roar. We live in pain, go down in flames, nothing can stop the Army Air Corps.
Our good friend Tom was born on December 7, 1923 in Portsmouth, Virginia. He was the fourth child of Oliver and Mary Creekmore. The United States was in a Great Depression, and the first 13 years of his life were not all that pleasant. Things got a bit better when the family moved to Arlington, Virginia. In high school in 1940, Tom met his wife-to-be, Barbara Jean Hostetler. She had just moved from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Tom was so certain that he would marry Barbara Jean at age 16, he wrote the date in ink, no less, on the back of his new Social Security card, which he still carries to this very day, 78 years later. We'll have more about Tom's life, but let's look at this date. Tom was born December 7th. Yesterday was Delaware Day. We are the first state to ratify the U.S. Constitution. That's why we're called the first state. 154 years before December 7th became the day that we lived in infamy as a result of Pearl Harbor. The people of Delaware knew that day quite well. Mr. Michael Morgan, a Delaware historian, a few months ago, wrote this story for local newspapers. When news of the proposed Constitution reached Delaware, most of the state's residents could not be more pleased. And 2 centuries later, their actions created a special day for Millsborough's Tom Creekmore. On December 7th, they voted unanimously to ratify the new federal Constitution, earning Delaware the nickname the first state for being the first to ratify the Constitution. Other than being his birthday, Tom had no special affection for December 7th, but he would soon learn that his birthday was special. Sunday, December 7, 1941 was a quiet day in southern Delaware. Stores were closed and many families gathered around the radio, which, at that time, was the center of home entertainment. Tom was over 100 miles from Sussex County in the Georgetown University Hospital, recovering from an appendix operation and celebrating his 18th birthday.
I'm going to talk about what I was doing that day.
Yeah, please.
What was I doing that day when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor?
We're in a hospital.
Well, for one thing, I was 18 years old, and we were having a party in my hospital room at Georgetown Hospital in Washington, D.C. And we were, few of my family were there, and having a little party, and had a little radio, and listening to the Washington Redskins Philadelphia Eagles football game. And first thing we knew, we heard an announcement that Pearl Harbor had been attacked. I wondered what to do. Where's Pearl Harbor? You know? And I want to tell you a little bit about what transpired following that announcement. I can tell you this, we didn't hear much of the football game after that. So the announcement just kept one right after the other, and at that day, and we didn't hear any more than hardly any of the football game. And I claim that the 35,000 people that were at Griffith Stadium watching that football game were the very last people to know that Pearl Harbor had been attacked.
Mr. Speaker, the President.
Mr. Vice President, Mr. Speaker, distinguished members of Congress, yesterday, December the 7th, 1941, a day that will live in infamy. The United States was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Emperor of Japan. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people, in their righteous might, will win through to absolute victory.
Now, the day that President Roosevelt was speaking in the Congress and asking for a, declaration of war, Glenn Miller and his orchestra were recording the song Moonlight Cocktails. This was one of that band's greatest hits, and today, Cody LaVille, who's from Rehoboth, he toured with the Glenn Miller Orchestra, or the Ghost Band, for 6 years, and he's going to play Moonlight Cocktails for us. Thank you, Cody. Tommy's going to tell us what he did after the war. Come on up, Tom.
Let's see, where was I when I was 21? Oh, that was interesting. We had about a month left of training before heading overseas, and we had been selected, our crew had been selected to go to Stewart Air Force Base at West Point, New York, for the third anniversary of Pearl Harbor Day. They were having a program there at Stewart Air Force Base. Our crew, of all the B-17 crews that were being training in the United States at that time, we were picked to go to Hunter Field, Savannah, Georgia, and pick up a brand new silver B-17, and they were lined up on the, boys you could see. And we went up to line up all these B-17s and found the plane, the number, and took off and flew up to West Point. And I must point out that we have a gentleman with us here today who was born that day. December the 7th, 1944. Was that right, 44? And, Bill, wave your flag. He was born that day. Then I was up at Stewart Air Force Base at West Point for the air show, December 7th, 1944, third anniversary of Pearl Harbor. And Dana reminds Bill that there are only two people in the world that knows where they were the day he was born, and that was his mother and Tom. So Monday morning, following the weekend air show, we take off from Stewart Air Force Base to take the brand new B-17 back to Hunter Field in Savannah, Georgia. And when we got down about Philadelphia, the weather was so bad, so we're right at the treetops at Philly, coming south, and it couldn't go any lower. So he checked in with air traffic control, the girls all ran that, and the girl says, well, I'm going to take you down to Washington and land you there because the weather's so bad below Washington, nothing's going south of Washington. And all I had was my little radio window right here to see up there. And so I said, I wonder where we were going to break out. I wanted to know where we were going to be when we broke out of the cloud. And I kept looking out my window, and I could see the clouds were kind of breaking up a little bit. I knew we were down to about 500 feet. And I looked out and looking out my radio window. The first thing I saw right off our wingtip was the Washington Monument. We almost hit the Washington Monument that day. But we weren't supposed to be anywhere near that area. That is a whole restricted area for flying. And we probably flew over the Capitol building, right down the mall, right past the Washington Monument, down over the Potomac River. First thing I know, we're landing at Washington National Airport. And my pilot says, now you guys stay on the airplane, they want me to come into operation. So he's gone about a half hour and he comes back and he said, boy, did they chew me up. Said, the major in there chewed me up. Said, what are you doing landing a B-17 at National Airport? He said, well, the girls, ATC, worked me in here. Said, look, you ought to know enough that when they worked you in and you made that turn right over 14th Street Bridge, there's National Airport runway, and you were supposed to go, not do land there, but go right across the river and land at Bowling Field. But they work all the airplanes in that same way, but you don't let you go right across the river and land at Bowling. The major told him, get that B-17 the hell out of here before some general comes in and finds that B-17 sitting here and I'll lose my job. And they made us, with about a 500-foot, 450-foot ceiling, they made us taxi out. It's blowing, the wind's blowing the plane like this, even, and they made us take off and fly and land over at Bowling Air Force Base. My pilot, they didn't even raise the gear. They just took off, didn't raise the landing gear, dropped the right wing, and went right on into Bowling Field.
Now, this thing behind me, the Boeing B-17G Flying Fortress. This is one of the iconic weapons of World War II. This was one of the greatest airplanes of the war. Tom was the radio operator. He had his own private compartment. It was big as opposed to a tail gunner who had a private compartment that wasn't very big. We had a ball turret gunner whose private compartment was really small. You want to come up and tell us a little bit about the B-17G?
Duke's father flew a fighter, F-4U, with the Marines in the Pacific in World War II. Can you imagine that? So we have a little something for Duke for being our master ceremony today. This is the airplane that Duke's dad flew with the Marines in the Pacific in World War II.
The best fighter, propeller-driven fighter of World War II. There's no question about it.
Not a real, this is an accent.
This is sculpture. It's beautiful.
And,
it's an art sculpture.
So
It's
I
fantastic.
wanted to do that. Now,
Thank you so much.
they call this bird, they gave it the nickname of Flying Fortress. Some reporter, when Boeing rolled this out and he saw this, he named it the Flying Fortress and it stuck. So that's the Flying Fortress. Why? Here in the nose, they put a turret with two 50 caliber machine guns. Who can count? Got two, right? Two. Now, you see two 50 caliber machine guns sticking out the nose on the side. The navigator operated those. When the fighters started coming in, the navigator forgot about navigating, and if they were coming over here, he would fire this gun. If they were coming over here, he'd fire that gun. So the bombardier had these two, the navigator behind him had those two. They would have got four. Then we work our way up to the cockpit, pilot, co-pilot, and right behind the pilot, co-pilot was the flight engineer, top turret gunner. You'll see his top turret up there. So he manned that turret, which had two 50 caliber machine guns. What do we have, 6? Now, in the early days, go through the Bombay area and you come to the radio room. Well, the radio operator had a big plexiglass window up here, and there was one 50 caliber machine gun up there. So the radio operator could stand up and shoot at planes that were up high enough. When I went over later in the war, when I flew my missions, they had removed that gun. But let's say in the beginning when this was named the Flying Fortress, then there were 2 waist gunners, one on each side of the airplane behind the whole turret, 2 waist gunners, each one had a 50 caliber machine gun. So what's that, 11? 11? Then in the tail was a tail gunner, and he had at the turret with 2 50 caliber machine guns. So this had 13 50 caliber machine guns. That the 8th Air Force lost 33,000 young guys that didn't get to come home and have a life like that. Yeah, we're lucky enough to live, parachute down or land, crash land and live. The 2 Stalag Luft prison camps for the officers, 3 for the sergeants, and when the war ended, we had 7,000 of our officers in Stalag Luft 1, which was up above Berlin, up on the Baltic Sea. The General Gross of our 1st Air Division said, we're going to go get them. And Barth, Germany, the little town, had a German fighter field there. Didn't even have hard runways, just grass. And by the way, the Russians had given Eisenhower's people, said, we'll give you 3 days to fly in. Your planes can fly over Russian territory in 3 days. So General Gross on Friday flew in with some radio people and some other people that needed, and starting Sunday morning, just as if you were going on a mission. The first 20 planes went in at daybreak, 7 o'clock, and so had 1 hour to load 30 officers, 30 POWs. As soon as we got shut off the engines on that side, and they would open the door, cut off 30, shut the door, we shut the 2 engines, patch it up, and take off without 30.
Tom came home from World War II in November of 1945, and he went back to work with the Pennsylvania Central Airlines at Washington National, the airport from which he and his 8 crew mates were kicked out of earlier. He and Barbara bought a small home in Arlington, Virginia, and started a family. Tom Jr. was born in 1947, Donna in 1950, and Jay in 1955. Today, Tom has 9 grandchildren and 10 great-grandchildren. Pennsylvania Central Airlines was renamed Capital Airlines and became part of United Airlines. Tom started with the airlines in 1942 and retired in 1981. Today, Tom is one of United's oldest retired employees. After Barbara passed on in 1986, Tom married Lorene Reed and has 3 stepchildren, Dana, Janine, and Brian, and 3 step-grandchildren, Colleen, Dylan, and Weston. Lorene passed in 2003, and Tom says he came to the beach to be a beachcomber. A short time later, he met Rita, and they've been best companions ever since. What a great guy. Thanks for defending my country, pal. I appreciate it.